Hello, Oracles. Welcome to our Friday night Tesla recap. So we'll go over some things shortly, give you guys a moment to get on here. TSLY, we're going to go over today as well, discussing the video I did yesterday, sharing what the dividend payouts are going to be. And I apologize, I didn't put on there when the payout's going to be. So we'll discuss that, dive into it a little bit deeper today as well. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to get on. Again, we pulled back a little bit today. Looking at some of the lines of GORT, one of the things that we're looking at is between today and Monday, how TSLY is reacting, how TSLA is reacting, and whether we're going to be continuing a downtrend or if we're going to be breaking this downtrend and coming back up. So after today, looks like we're continuing that downtrend. We're going to wait and see what Monday looks like and then kind of make a better determination there to see how we're going to trend. Now, again, looking at August, it's a low volume month. Not a lot of exciting things coming in with Fitch coming out and downgrading the US economy. It's kind of like, I don't know if there's really anything positive coming. We did get jobs reports that came out today that were very good. Unemployment actually went down, which is awesome. This is exactly what the Fed wants. The Fed wants to be able to bring inflation down without bringing unemployment up. And right now we're seeing unemployment coming down and we're seeing the inflation coming down as well. So we're moving in the right direction. A lot of people are thinking that, maybe this is leading us to a potential recession. But then if you go back 20 years, this is basically where the rates were back then. And we have to remember for the last decade, we basically had rates at zero. So it's kind of like maybe the Fed can actually pull this off, and as Elon said himself, one day we think that we're going to be hitting a recession and then the next day we don't. So again, it's day to day here. I do still think we have a lot of these dominoes to fall. Don't know what's going to cause the housing market to pull down, but it definitely needs to cool off. Maybe just this little slight coming down. Maybe some people losing their jobs. Maybe it's more of a rebalancing of jobs. We're seeing a lot of executives getting laid off, but we're seeing some people on the front lines actually going in and getting jobs. So they're almost like taking the money from the executives and moving it into lower paid positions. So maybe that's what's happening. So we're giving the people near the bottom a better opportunity. So don't know. Just things to pay attention to as we move forward here. Again, I'm ready for both. I'm still buying every single day and I'm saving cash every single day just to be ready for anything. That's basically what a lot of companies, hedge funds, big money institutions, all these people are doing is kind of doing both. They're buying and they're also saving cash to protect themselves just in case we do get a major pullback. So I'll pop up the charts here for you guys. Let's see where we're at. There's that. Here we go. Where are we at here? All right, so looking at the chart here. Again, down another 2% today, closing at 253.86. Looking at the volume, still low volume, under 100 million shares trading hands. But, I drew this downward channel yesterday and, we kind of tipped above it intraday today, but we are still in this downward channel. That's just where we're at the moment. I can readjust it from this point to this point, but we're still in that channel. That's just where we're at, is coming down. So what we're watching. And again, Monday is going to determine where we're going to go. We've talked about it before. We have consistently gone from overbought to oversold to overbought to oversold in the RSI. We've had some moments where we've kind of peaked back above it on the way down. So here we are coming from, overbought, dipped down, overbought, and now we're heading towards that oversold range. So we're down at 45 now. Perhaps we're going to continue further through the month of August and then maybe September and October. We do typically see a strong push at the end of September into October. We get those delivery numbers that come out in October. So perhaps that maybe pushes us up. Maybe we get a surprise. Elon already did set the stage for a, lower expectations for deliveries and production for Q3. Maybe they end up, that's subduing some of the expectations that are coming out. And because they're subduing those expectations, maybe what ends up happening is we're going to actually beat those expectations and we're going to see a nice recovery from it. So maybe they're pricing in a lower than expected number and then we end up beating and we go up on the price. So again, a lot to happen between now and then. Just some thoughts I'm spitting out here. Let me dive into, I'll bring it up, all the TSLY information now. Let's see where we at. There it is. I'll go home. All right, let's get this up for you. All right, so looking at here, ETFs, TSLY. So again, as of the third, it's a almost 60% distribution rate for Tesla for TSLY. It's absolutely incredible. But looking at the dates here, as I said, so the payout date, which people were asking for, the payout date is 8/14. So the 14th of this month, you will see your payouts for anyone who has this ETF. So, and again, it's 83 cents per share, which is incredible considering it's now under $16 today. So I set some buys up for it, and I had a buy at $16 for 5 shares. That went through. I had a buy at $15.50 for 5 shares. That also went through. I have a buy at $15 for 10 shares. And I still have a lot of cash just because I don't know if we're going to continue to get a pullback and we keep getting lower. Again, one of the things that I have as a concern is, yeah, the dividend payouts are awesome. But if you lose the equity value and the dividends don't make up for it, then you really haven't gained anything. You know, Gort's been playing numbers between TSLA, TSLL, and TSLY, trying to figure out the best configuration for all of it. So he and I have been discussing a lot about that. My thoughts, I'm a much smaller guy, so I'm just adding. So for me, any type of cash flow generation I can get is good, and I'm just going to DCA my way into it to make sure I've got the lower price and bring my dollar cost, my cost basis down on it. So this way I can also gain on the equity as well as also benefit from the dividends. Hey, Dad. What's going on, Raymond? Hey, Tim, we need some good Tesla news to start with. I say official Highland announcement. Nothing official yet. I will jump in. Some people were talking about it, about what's going on with Highland. So nothing official. Tesla has denied anything that's going on. Supposedly there is going to be a shutdown in Shanghai on August 14th of the Model 3 line. Tesla says that is not true, but Tesla in the past on multiple occasions has said that things like that are not true, only to come to find out that they were true. So perhaps this is it. And again, this is not like a downtime on the production lines is a bad thing. You know, doing it for upgrades. Ford just did it themselves. You know, we've seen it from Tesla in the past. These upgrades are good. You know, the last time they did this in Shanghai last August, it ended up turning from, you know, it increased production significantly. They went up to 21,000 vehicles per week just because they were able to do the upgrades. So doing a whole Highland remodel is more significant. But they also learned from the S and the X, where Elon said he wishes they didn't shut down for as long as they did for both of those. So I have a feeling they've learned from that, and this Highland will be significantly different just because, again, the Model 3 is a much higher volume vehicle than the S and the X. So whatever they do is going to be piecemeal, and they're not going to do it all in one shot. So we'll see how this all transpires, but we know something is coming, whether it's Highland or not. We know something is coming. That Model 3 is due for a revamp, and we've got enough information saying that it's going to happen. Captain Dan, greetings from Florida. What's going on? Is there any word on progress of Giga Mexico? Is anything going on down there? We have actual construction. So they've had all the permits passed, so they're good to go. I have not heard anything official about the groundbreaking yet. I've actually heard more about India. Seems like India, they've got office buildings going up over there. They've leased office space for it. Lots of India news going on. I'm actually wondering if India is going to come online before Mexico. I don't think Mexico is going to run into any issues like Berlin did with all the red tape. I think Mexico is online to come up as quickly as possible. But I think India is just all about, let's make this happen. So, hey, you know, I'm not sure either way. I think we're going to be seeing India and Mexico both online next year. Holding any shorts as a hedge? I'm actually the only thing I'm holding as any sort of short, and I do not like to short. That's just not my style. But I do have SQQQ just because if I think the indices are going to flip flop like they have been, I started to add little bits here and there to the SQQQ because a lot of my plays that I have, a lot of my stocks are high growth stocks. They're in the Nasdaq 100. So if I've got the SQQQ and all of my stocks end up coming down, again, I put my stop limits in, some of those end up selling off so I can take that money and I see that reversal and that trend coming. All right, cool. Now I've taken my profits from here and I can put it into the SQQQ and then run that on the way up and just do it the opposite. So I take my profits from the stuff that's coming down, put it into the stuff that's going up, and I just hedge it that way. But that's the only way I'm doing it right now. Chuck Holland, perfect timing for TSLY payout dividend on the 14th, and I'm heading to Vegas on the 18th. Nice, putting it all on red, baby. I love it. I love it. Yeah, that's TSLY. And again, last month they paid $1.06. This month they're paying 83 cents. And I'll jump into the other ones that they have as well. So they also have, I've got NVDY. Let me see, get back up to the top here. So NVDY, and again, all of these pay out on the same day. So they all pay out on the 14th. And NVDY is 81 cents, but that one costs like $5 to $6. Actually, now at this point, almost $7 per share more. So you get a much better bang for your buck in TSLY. But again, it's also more volatile, although NVDY dropped a full dollar yesterday, which was a lot. But as you know, at most, if anybody, whoever's in any of these, you saw that there was a big sell-off today. Now, question I had, and I don't know if you guys can answer because I have not looked it up yet. I've been way too busy at work. Is so the X days. So the whole thing, from what I have learned, and actually, you know what, Gort did share it with me, which is in order to get the payout, you have to own the stock after close on the X date. But then I see a lot of selling going on the X date. So do you just need to own it on the day of? So you can theoretically sell it day of the X date? That I actually don't know. That's something I need to learn. If you guys know, please share in the comments. Otherwise, I will definitely look it up. So I'm really curious about that because you see a lot of selling, and I take that as a buying opportunity, which is why I have my stops or my limit buys in, because I'm like, hey, if everybody's going to sell off now, I'll take it. I'm not one of those ones who takes my money and flips it from one ETF to another. I don't have the time to do that, not yet. So I'm just taking it. I'm like, well, I'm just going to be adding to it. So I'll take that dip opportunity and add to it. But again, not knowing how TSLA is going to trade over the course of the month, I'm just going to kind of slowly DC my way into it. Randy, what are the two upper and lower gaps or resistance points? All right, let's take a look. So let's get the charts back up here for you. I will absolutely share that with you. My dad was actually discussing with me earlier a good point about the UAW. For those of you who don't know, the UAW is, looking about going on strike. They're fighting things sort of like, UPS and all of that. And UPS, I'm not a big one for, totally drawing a blank here, for unions. I'm not huge on unions. However, UPS did wonders for their workers. So now if the UAW is going to be doing the same thing, that may not bode well for ICE manufacturers because they're going to be paying a lot more on payroll. It's not going to be good. The cost of their vehicles could be going up because they need to compensate for that. Could get ugly, and that could open up a very big window for Tesla and spread open that, that EV push and that drive going forward. So with that said, he was looking for a buying opportunity. So we were discussing gaps. So we will get into the gaps here. So looking at the gaps that we've got currently, where'd it go? So the gap down below us first is 235. And below that, where was it? There's another one at 200 somewhere. I don't know why it's not showing. I think my charts changed. Because there's another one right around here at the 221 mark. It's a small gap, but it's right around here. So let me check my settings. Hold on one second. Chart settings. Where's all my gaps? Yeah, see, it shows 5 gaps. Huh, interesting. Yeah, there is a gap around that two. Yeah, there it is, 221. So that's the other gap. Above us, there's only this one up to 289. There are no other gaps above us. Going all the way back to all-time highs, there are none. So 289.52 is the gap above us. Below us again, 235. The one below that is 221. And my thoughts on that are, again, if we're going to continue this downtrend where we're at, I think that 235 will get filled. Again, we don't have an FOMC meeting until September. So because we don't have that, we're going to have CPI, PPI. We got the unemployment numbers today. Again, 187,000 jobs being added. Unemployment came down to 3.4% from, or was it down to 3.4%? It came down 1/10%. And it's the lowest it's been in 24 years. So like unemployment's looking really good. So that's some of the data points that we're getting over time. So then people are thinking, all right, maybe the Fed is actually going to give us this soft landing that they've been talking about, and the market's going to rally. But we have still been seeing it coming down because, again, we got the Fitch downgrade of the US. And because of that, we also hear about some politicians shorting the US economy. Like that's like horrible insider trading and should be illegal, but that's what's going on. So yeah. Raymond, not clear if India have sufficient low-cost battery suppliers like CATL and BYD, especially India not too welcoming to Chinese firms, even if they partner with local firms. Raymond, actually, India put out a statement saying that they encourage Tesla to do like Apple and partner with suppliers from China. It was shocking as well, but India understands that they do not have the supplies yet, and they want to keep these manufacturers in the country. So as they are building up the suppliers there, they are encouraging them to go to China because they know that China can produce what they need for supplies. So as much as they are at odds with each other, it makes the most business sense for India to grow their economy by doing that. And they are. So yes, while India currently does not have those supplies that they might need, they are telling Tesla to partner with manufacturers in China for that. Sunshi, from what I have read, you have to own the ETF on the X date. Buying on the X date or after, you will not qualify for the dividend. But as you said, tons of selling on the X date. Yeah. So, and I know you can't buy on the X date. Gort and I have been discussing T+1, T+2. We were following the T+2 this whole time. I did test it out. I bought 10 extra shares yesterday just to see. So I've done the math on it. So because I have 100 shares, I had 100 shares on the date. So for me, because I had 99.81 shares on T+2, my dividend would be 82.87. If it's a T+1, I'll actually get 91.17 for the dividend payout. So I'll keep you guys posted on that as soon as I see it, just because I'm really curious if it's going to be T+1 or T+2, because if it's T+1, we actually find out, or this time around at least, we found out what the dividend payout was of 83 cents partway through the T+1 day. So if that's the case, we say, hey, you know what? Hey, dividends are going to be paying out 95 cents a share. Heck yeah, I'm going to buy more. I'm going to buy as much as I can because that's a great payout. But then if it comes down and says, oh, it's going to be a 44-cent payout, that's still good, but maybe I won't add as many and I'll just kind of let it roll over to the next month and see what happens. So again, I'm doing that test and I'll let you guys know how that plays out for me with these ETFs. And then, yeah, the X date is very curious. I mean, maybe next time I'll sell a few on the X date just to see and test it next month. Maybe I'll sell 10 just to see if it still holds. Just little testing. Last day for dividend is the day before X dividend day. Yeah, and yeah, that's what we were discussing, T+1, T+2. So not sure on that one. My dad says on dividend stocks, there's an issue date and a payout date. I often sell stocks after the issue date. You will receive the payout. Yeah. So looking at it, there's just the way they word it here. Oh, I got to do it this way. Drop down here. So for instance, if we're looking at this here, we've got the declaration date. So that's the date that they declare the price. This is where they're going to tell you what the payout's going to be. The X date is the date you have to own it by in order to get paid out for the dividends. Now, it does take a day or two to settle, which is why we're discussing the T+1, T+2. Buying it on this date is not going to get it for you because it's not going to settle until the following day. So if that's the case, T+1 makes sense. So if they're going to declare it the day before and you can see what the payout's going to be, then you can buy that on this date. Record date is just the date that they, say, hey, this is what's actually happening, and they make it official, and then they give you the payout date right here, and that's 8/14. So the payout date is just the day that they put the money in your account. So what's going on, Karav? So yeah, so again, loving these dividends, but I'm still cautious with it. I've been adding more and more to it, but I'm still being wise with my portfolio. I'm still diversifying in other areas. I still have other things. Again, I'm really a big fan of these dividends. It's one of the things that I've been looking at for my very long-term growth, as far as how do I plan on generating cash flow in the future passively, and dividends are a great way to do that. I typically don't buy stocks just because of dividends. But when you're looking at these, I'm strictly buying these because of the dividends, because they're so high. Otherwise, when I bring Darth Dividend on, one of the things we're going to discuss is, those stocks and companies that you can buy that you're going to get growth on, and you're also going to be getting the dividends. So you kind of get both. And now the dividend payouts for those significantly less than what you're going to get from a TSLY, but it's a more stable thing. Plus, it is a very expensive for the maintenance fees. A 0.99% is extremely expensive. So, it's one of those things where it's worth it in the short term, but is it really worth it in the long run? These are very new. We will see how it plays out. Let me see. Yep, there's the settlement date when you buy an equity, either 1 or 2 days, depending on factors. Yeah, and that's what I'm testing right now to see if for TSLY, if it's a 1 or 2 day settle time. So I will know that within the next 2 weeks, and of course I'll let you guys know. Nicholas, switching gears a little bit to macro. CPI will be bad. Cleveland expects a jump of 0.5. And that's the thing too, now that we're hitting year over year numbers that we're basing it off of last year's very high numbers, but it was coming down. Does that mean that we're now going to be seeing higher year over year numbers? But I'm still looking at month over month numbers. Others have also mentioned gas prices are going back up. Other sorts of energy costs are going up. So these things that we've now been seeing in July for prices going up, think about all the heat we've had worldwide in the last 2 months. That's a lot of energy expense. That's a lot of demand. Yes, that could push these inflation numbers higher. So we may get a worse than expected inflation reading in August. Again, we have August and September CPI before we're going to get the FOMC meeting. So if we're going to get a worse than expected CPI reading in August, that may not bode well for the market. We might see some uncertainty going into the next reading because we're like, oh, well, if the Fed is going data point to data point and these numbers aren't looking as good, maybe that means the Fed is actually going to go up on rates again. And that could kind of spook the market a little bit. What's going on, William? Sometimes it is better to sell before X day and buy after when the stock is cheaper. This is the case by case effective reverse psychology strategy. Yeah, but if you sell before the X date, then you're not going to get paid out the dividend. That's the problem. So that's why I'm like, if you can sell on the X date like these people do, you buy up on the day that you know what the price is going to be for the dividend payout, buy it all up then, next day, sell it out. And again, if you line up the dates of a lot of these ETFs or a lot of these dividend funds, you go out there and you can literally just roll them over like you do probably 2 to 3 a week if you time it all right. I have no time to do all of that, but you could theoretically take the same money, roll it into, a dozen different ETFs and stocks over the course of the month, and get dividend payouts from every single one of them just by doing the timing on it. So yeah, that could be. Yes, Nicholas, I figured you meant month over month. So month over month going up to 0.5 is a significant jump. They want it to be around a 0.2. So going up to a 0.5, that is way higher than they want it to be. Oracle Investments, as the proposed supercharger map seems to be built along Mexico border. Does this indicate Tesla is planning a large expansion into Mexico? So the supercharger, if you look at it, it's going from Texas up to California. They're trying to connect their two U.S. facilities. That's really what it is, because they're going to be transporting batteries and all sorts of materials back and forth between the two. So that's how they're going to start it. Just like they've done with everything else. Everything else has been done for their own use, but they're also doing it in a manner to show others the benefits of utilizing it. And then others are like, oh, Tesla's doing this for themselves. They're extremely successful with it. We want to do the same so we can then come on board. Then you get more demand for that because Tesla has just literally led by example and doing it on their own. That's what's going to happen. So that's where they're starting with all of that. Is they're connecting their two factories. They're connecting Austin and California. So that's where that whole entire semi supercharger route is starting. And today I learned as well, I did not know this, Pepsi actually has 21 semis in their fleet. 21 Tesla semis Pepsi has. I didn't know they had that many. Obviously, we saw the delivery event last year. They got a handful of them. So Tesla has been producing these, not quickly, obviously. They've been producing these, and they're getting them all to Pepsi. I don't know what the contract is with Pepsi. I don't know how many they're planning on getting, but this is pretty big. So again, we know full well they've already said that, it's kind of been delayed slightly till the end of 2024 before the semi really starts to get ramping. Kind of a bummer, but at least we know that the date is end of 2024. A lot of speculation today about core CPI falling because of lower used car prices and much lower rents. Just a few people's opinions. Yeah, I wish my rent came down. It has gone in the other direction, but I have heard of other rents coming down as well. Housing market still hasn't really come down much. I do get a lot of, I've been looking for houses, both single family and multifamily. Multifamily isn't as available, but there are a lot of single families, but the majority of them out there either need a lot of work or they're still pretty high priced. So I have seen some price reductions on them, but not a lot. So I've been monitoring that to see where the housing market is going. But again, we're also looking at interest rates being at a high. I think the highest has been in 20 years at 7.2%. But again, like I said, you go back 20 years and it's been like that for a while. You go back 20 years before that and you were looking at 15 to 20% mortgage rates. So it was steadily coming down for the better part of 20, almost 30 years. Starting in the 80s, and then it came down to zero after the housing market crashed and stayed there for a while. So coming back up to the 7%, I think probably a good decent place would be between 4 and 5% for it. Especially if the interest rates where the Fed wants it to be is around 2%, having the mortgage rates between 4 or 5, maybe 6%, depending on your credit, seems about right. So I think we're now pushing on the higher end of mortgage rates. And I think that there could be what starts to topple some of these prices. But again, I'll pay attention to that and see where we're going. Can you comment on what real mileage is like for the Pepsi Tesla fleet? So that I don't know. Pepsi hasn't really said much about it. Last I heard, they were doing more local runs with soda and longer runs with like the chip goods and things like that and the foods. And of course, there was a lot of Tesla Q coming out saying it's because the range isn't what Tesla said it was going to be. But if you look at Pepsi's fleets, their short runs were all with soda, because when you have a heavier product, you just do shorter runs with it. They just have facilities and bottling plants set up accordingly, so to have shorter runs. So it had nothing to do with the semi whatsoever. It had to do with where their bottling plants were. Since then, I have not heard any official numbers out of Pepsi as far as range. I could check with Brian because I know he does a lot of information about the semi itself, and he knows he's spoken to some of the people who drive them, and so maybe they can speak about the range itself. So I'll reach out to Brian and see if I can get any information on that for you guys. And actually, let me see, because I think I had some of the information on Twitter I wanted to share with you guys, or sorry, X, no longer Twitter, formerly known as Twitter. Profile. And on X, they must be cleaning out bots. I dropped a lot of let me see. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's do this. You know what? We're gonna go through this. Here's some semi information for you guys. I'm not gonna play the whole video because it's 10 minutes, but we'll take a look at the thread and see what's in here. So looking at this thread, I don't know how to use a smartphone that you can easily operate one of these trucks. The turning radius is better than my car. Wow. Turning radius of the truck is better than their car. That's awesome. People say their Tesla semis 12 run them 12 hours per day. 3 of the semis are dedicated to long haul routes that can range 250 to 450 miles. We have been aggressive to push the limits and demonstrate we can achieve a high range with a fully loaded tractor. There we go. There's answers right there. With a semi charger, the trucks can go from a 5 to 10% charge to 95%. Ooh, in as little as 20 to 30 minutes. That's awesome, because a lot of these truckers, they can stop, they can, grab a quick bite to eat, do whatever they need to do, and it usually may take 20 to 30 minutes. So that's actually awesome. And as Elon says, it's been great working with Pepsi company. So sweet. All right. So there's some answers to our questions. So I'm glad I checked this out. All right. So I'll check to see. Let me see. There was some other stuff I wanted to go over as well. But great news there. There's the jobs. And I've been seeing a lot more FUD coming out as well, with all sorts of Tesla stuff, like even in the local news, seeing a lot of things. So just one of those things to pay attention to is there a short attack coming? Is, knowing that there's a lower volume month of August, potentially higher CPI concerns, are they looking to do a short attack to, overblow the little bit of a sell-off we may end up seeing, especially because of low volume? And then, and I know we talked about it before, but Wyferian is a company out of Germany, I believe, that does wireless charging, and Tesla just bought them. And so my thoughts for this originally when it came out was for the robotaxi fleet. You set these wireless chargers up at all the pickup spots for all the robotaxis, whether it's going to be at an airport, on city streets, whatever it is. That's where they end up parking. They charge while they're waiting for the next fare. The person gets in, they drive around, do what they got to do, and then they go and park at one of these places again. Then, as Vinny had pointed out on his video, could also be used for Optimus. Thinking about how Optimus with charging ports and things like that, just to have Optimus be able to walk over to a place, or maybe Tesla makes an area of their factory floor all wireless charging. So literally Optimus is charging constantly while working in that area. Could be something that that's used for Optimus. So very excited about that as well. Just lots of little things coming for Tesla that, really kind of keep the eyes open and remind us that even when we get pullbacks like this, it's going to be a good buying opportunity. Let me see. And I know Gort was messaging me as well, some more information. Let me see here. Oh, okay. And as Gort says here, it's a great point. The T+2 for settlement, if you sell on the X date, you still technically own it because it hasn't settled. So that explains a lot of why people sell on the X date, because, hey, it's going to take a day to settle. By the time it settles, yes, you technically owned it at the end of the day. So that explains why you'll see a lot of that selling going on. Thank you, Gort. I appreciate that. So yeah, that's that explains that. So then, yes, absolutely, you can go ahead and sell on the X date. For me personally, I took it as a buying opportunity. So again, I'll buy when everybody's selling because I get a much better price. But again, I do it by putting in my limits, just because I can't watch it all day long. So yeah, learning all these good things. And I know one of the things that Darth Dividend, I know he likes Bank of America. Is one of the many ETFs that he puts money into. And he's just building up on, or one of the stocks. So he builds up on that because it's a bank, it's not going anywhere. It's going to be perfectly fine. But you just keep on building up shares after shares after shares. And this way you can get yourself those dividends as well. Now, obviously, I would love for Tesla to do dividends in the future because we're adding so many shares to it. Um, whether that happens anytime soon or not, I don't know. A buyback would come first before a dividend by a long shot. But essentially, the price of a stock tends to fall by the amount of the dividend on its ex-dividend date, reflecting that its assets will soon be dropping by the amount of the dividend. That's a good point. So, and I couldn't figure out why, but that makes exactly perfect sense. I had in buy orders for it at 16 and 15. When I looked at it this morning to see where my buy orders were, because I saw it was coming down, it dropped to 15.16, which was that basically 84 cents. So that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, it tends because it drops that price. So all right, now I've learning a lot more. Thank you guys for sharing this info. That explains a lot as to why that whole entire thing dropped. Um, and even my buy orders dropped on it. Maxim, I bought my first 149 shares of TSLY at this day. Awesome. I love it. I love it. We'll see if that pays off in September as well as it has been paying off all year long. Is it most unlikely that Tesla would buy Nikola? Absolutely not. Tesla would not buy Nikola. They don't want anything to do with Nikola. Nikola is a scam. The craziest thing in the world is the fact that California just gave Nikola a ton of money for hydrogen charging. And I'm like, or hydrogen stations. I'm like, dude, it's like, why? Like they have already been proven to be a fraud, yet you're going to put money into them anyway? I don't know, man. I wonder if it were worth taking a $10,000 loan with annual interest of 7.2%. Use that money on TSLY to generate more income. What are you thinking about a strategy like this? I can't give financial advice, but I'm in this environment. I am not a huge fan at all about loans. Get out of debt. Get out of debt. When you're in a good bull positive market and the interest rates are not where they're at, it's beneficial. You could actually benefit and do well by taking loans and doing things like that. Small loans to be able to, kind of build up your equity faster and utilize that money. We are not in that place. Again, everybody has a different risk tolerance. Everybody does different things. You've got to make your own decision on it. However, that's the problem is high interest rates. We don't know what's going to happen. You take that $10,000 loan at 7.2% interest, all of a sudden the stock crashes, ETF comes down. It goes from 15.50 and it drops down to $13. You've now lost the equity on that. Maybe the dividend payout comes out and it's only 30 cents per share. Still good, but it's not going to make up for that money. Now you've actually lost money and you have to still pay that money back with the 7.2% interest. Now, again, that may be an exaggerated downside to this, but it's one of those risks that you need to take into account before you go and make that move. As my dad says, Nikola trucks run really well downhill. I love it. Yes, they do run really well downhill. Sandy Monroe drove Nikola and seemed very impressed. I know. I remember him going on there, and a lot of people gave him flack for it. Especially considering that it was clearly a fraud. And he drove it, and sure, it's fine. But again, even if they have turned it around, even if they do have a functional truck now that actually does operate, where is the infrastructure? There are so many issues that you have to deal with when it comes to hydrogen infrastructure. It's just not scalable. It is not worth doing and building it up. You are never going to get yourself to a point where you'll be even where gasoline is. You're not going to be at a point where electricity is. Hydrogen cannot get to that point and supply the world with what it needs to have all these vehicles on the road. Sure, if you're going to do it just for trucks, maybe, but still, it's hydrogen. Like, why? If you can get just this good of a thing out of electricity, why would you use hydrogen? what else we got here? I thought there was something else I wanted. I swear there was something else I had on X for you guys. Mm-mm. Sorry, I'm just running through. I usually repost everything that I write through mine. It makes it easier, but I must have not shared what I wanted to tell you guys about. Hmm. Hmm. The other thing too, and I don't get into it too much, is wondering if what's going on with the downgrade of the U.S. economy is actually going to do well for crypto. It didn't really move much. I didn't see a lot of movement from crypto at all when we got this news. But oh, here we go. I'll share this one with you guys for Tesla. Roland's awesome. If you guys don't follow Roland on X, please do. So Germany reported 3,905 Tesla sales in July, second best first month of the quarter ever, and 61% increase from April, best July ever. Increase of 107% year to date versus same period last year, and year to date is 58% of last year's total. So great movements going on over in Germany. And as we have seen all year long, it really looks like we're going to be seeing the Model Y be the best selling vehicle overall in the entire world, not just EVs, all of them. And in the US, Model Y sales are better than the next 25 competitors combined. Essentially, it's wild how quickly mortgage rates have increased. We bought last year and locked in 4.75%, which we felt was high since rates were recently around 3%. So it happens when the Fed goes up on interest rates faster than they've ever done it in history. That's just the nature of it. Fed goes up on interest rates, mortgage rates go up, everybody else's interest rates go up, credit card interest rates are high. Now, this is the other scary part. So yes, we're talking about the housing market and other pieces that are kind of giving us signs that we may see a massive pullback in the economy. Wage increases aren't exaggerated. They're reasonable levels. Yet we are seeing credit card debt increasing significantly. We are seeing credit card interest rates increasing significantly. So we have a lot of people in a lot of credit card debt paying a lot of interest on these. At some point, they're going to hit a breaking point. That could be ugly, especially considering that wages are not going up as fast as all of the interest rates are. So that there could spell that disaster and that breaking point, because some people are going to hit that point. Especially, don't forget, October rolls around here in the US and student loan payments come back in. A lot of people are not the best with their money. Typically, people who spend a lot of money on their credit cards aren't very good with their money. So they could be in a position where now all of a sudden they've got to pay their student loans back, but they're buried in debt. Now they're going to be buried in even more debt, maybe don't have enough money to be able to pay off their student loans. Loans start getting defaulted on. That's one of those pieces I'm paying attention to. Again, I hope it doesn't happen, but it's one of those things that it's on my radar to pay attention to that is a potential. Will X be an Amazon competitor? Not so much. Dojo could be like an AWS competitor. That's kind of what they had talked about for Amazon, but not X. X is going to be more of the competitor like Facebook. Now, Elon did state recently that somebody came out and said, hey, X is working on being able to do investing on the platform. And while that is on Elon's radar to make that happen, they are not currently working on it. I would love to see that happen, knowing especially since, Elon and Jack Dorsey, are close, that easily could partner with Square and be able to get, that whole entire setup going. I don't know if they would merge or not, totally possible. Thinking about the relationships that Elon has made over the years with Jack Dorsey, bringing, X and Square together as far as it being the financial platform, just absorbing into X is possible. Knowing about, Redwood materials for all the recycling with JB Straubel coming over onto the board, I think those two, Tesla could end up absorbing redwood materials in the future when they need something more significant when it comes to battery recycling. I think a lot of these relationships that Elon has made will eventually lead to a much larger X Corp umbrella that's coming in and kind of absorbing a lot of these companies and relationships that other friends of his are building up. Yep, exactly, Paul. A lot of people aren't paying their credit card bills, and that's not good for banks. And then we can end up having ugly things going on with banks because banks don't have people paying their bills. Then that's where we see foreclosures. That's where we see people not paying rents. And that could turn relatively quickly. Let's see. The latest thing that realtors are pushing is to not be afraid of these mortgage rates now because the rates will come down and you can refinance. Not something I would rely on. Right. So for me, it's always been um, the price of the house because you can always refinance at a lower rate, but you cannot buy that house at a different price than what you choose to purchase it for at the moment. So that's why I'm waiting for the prices to come down because, hey, yeah, mortgage rates are 7.2%. If the housing market came down 20%, cool. I'm anticipating at some point the rates will come down. And if I buy a house, 20% below where it's at right now, makes total sense. I'll just remortgage later. Not a big deal. But if the mortgages are high and the prices are high, even if that rate comes down, yeah, it comes down. That's great. But I still paid way more than I should have for that house. So that's kind of what I'm waiting for. I don't trust realtors. They don't care as long as you buy or sell. Some, it's like lawyers, but I think when it comes to realtors, more of them are less of them are shady like lawyers are. Yes, that's how they make their living, and they're going to do what they can to sell you the house, but it is in their best interest to get you what's the right house for you. And they will do what they can to make it happen. So, yeah, I mean, and it depends on who you're talking to. So obviously, you've got to make sure you know your realtor and trust them and everything. So some are going to be shady and just try to get you to buy or sell whatever you can. But some are good. I went through the whole real estate, everything. I got to the point where I could take the state test, and then they screwed up on all the dates and things, and then I got too busy to finish it, so I never ended up finishing that. But I learned enough about it to know these things. Um, so yeah, and so yeah, I mean, mortgage rates are very high, but again, I think they will come down. But I'm still waiting. I think maybe the Fed does go up on rates one more time. That could be the nail in the coffin because don't forget, we still have a lot of rates that the Feds went up on that haven't actually fully taken effect in the economy. So it's almost like there's this silent pressure that's coming, that's building up that you don't really feel right now. But when you feel it, it's going to be an immense pressure all at once. Now, let me see. I'll hang out for a couple more minutes and then I'll tap out. Today at work, man. I don't know, man. How was the day for everyone else? Today was like, I know we had the full moon this week, and I've had some full moon customers. Anybody who's worked in a retail or the restaurant business or customer service of any sort knows that full moons are very questionable customers that come in. And it was almost like we had different questionable customers, full moon customers all week long. And yesterday we had like the actual full moon. Like this customer was literally the full moon. And then today was like the culmination of all of them all at once in one day. It was very draining today. Very draining. Many realtors belong in the same ship as lawyers that you want to sink in the middle of the ocean. Very true. The thing that drives me crazy about lawyers is it's all about billable hours. So even if they lose a case, they're like, oh no, we're going to appeal that. Because if we appeal that, that means that we can bill you for more hours while we appeal it. And they have no concern whatsoever about actually winning the case. It's just a matter of billable hours. And it's very dirty, very shady. I do not like them at all. Let's see if there's anything else. Let me jump back over onto X hot minute here. Let's see. Yeah, there were a lot of good stocks this week that, like SoFi, I have Square, I have Neo. A bunch of them ran up very nicely this week. And then as soon as Fitch came out, it kind of popped that little bit of a bubble that was forming. Um, Neo, I was I was actually pretty closer to getting back to break even. My cost basis is 22 bucks and it got to 16. So I was hoping that maybe I'd be able to sell out break even, but I think Neo is going to be fine because I think personally we are going to see China bail them. So China's not going to let Neo fail, and Neo will grow and they'll be fine. So I think we're going to get another good buying opportunity for Neo for pretty much everything I think we're going to get. So let's see. Yeah, nothing else here. Nothing else going on. All right, folks. I think we actually got some storms coming in here, so it might get a bit rocky here in a minute. So I'm gonna let you guys go for the weekend. I do have tomorrow. Very happy with my finances. Got my credit card bill finally paid off with my bonus. I'm now back at the place where I was a few months ago, where I can literally pay it off the moment I use it. Back in line there, but I'm going to come up with a full video this weekend for you guys for all of my July income, investments, and expenses. Again, everybody on Patreon and all my members, you guys all get to see my full portfolio updates every single week. You guys can see it all there. And you guys get to see all of my income, expenses, and where I put my money. Anybody who's interested in maybe trying to get themselves out of debt, learn how to get financially free, build up some passive income. I go over all of that on a weekly basis with my members and patrons. And then as soon as I can actually get my membership subscriptions going over on X, I will let you guys know, and I will be over there as well. But I've been working on that since day one. So I appreciate all the support you guys give me. Thank you so much. Again, I will post a video this weekend. Going to take some downtime because I haven't had any in a while. Otherwise, have a great weekend, guys. I'll see you.